are going haywire. No, they're not mine. No, I don't have alerts program. I'm the Reverend Lisa Bowie Kemper. My pronouns are she and her. In this congregation, challenged by our liberating faith, we discover deeper spiritual meaning, nurture loving community, cultivate courageous connections, and partner in the work of justice. Welcome to each and every one of you here in person and on the live stream. We're pleased to have guests and newcomers with us in both places. I encourage you, if you'd like more information about how to connect in this community, to contact our Director of Member Relations, Kelly Green. You can usually find her in Freeman Hall after the service at the visitor table, or you can send her an email. Well, her email's not on the screen. That's okay. It is available on the website and in other places. Oh, it's on the, thank you, Dave. It's on the order of service. Bulletin, order of service, thank you. You know, the thing. We were ready early, and I'm discombobulated because we were just chilling before the service. We have large print orders of service, personal hearing assistance devices, and an elevator available. I'm just gonna pretend that's not happening. You have the order of service, you can see what's happening, and hopefully we'll catch up shortly. There's a hearing loop in our alternate worship space, the Bernstein Room. We have coloring pages and fidgets, yarn, and other things for all ages in the vestibule if that's useful to you or to your children. I hope that you will take a peek in your order of service and in our current e-news for announcements of things that are happening. I do know that after the service today, Paula will be offering her credo in the Bernstein Room, so look forward to that. A warm welcome to each and every one of you, whether you are here in person or joining via live stream. Whether today is your first Sunday or your thousandth among us, we are stronger because you are with us. We are one people of many beliefs, origins, identities, and genders. We are all growing, all learning, all loved. It is good to be together. I invite you now to take a deep breath and settle in as our service begins.
Draw a circle
Draw the circle wide. What is it that calls you here, that calls you onward, that calls you inward, that leads you homeward? What is it that gives you the power to make that change, to ask that question, to take that journey? What is it that says you have done well, that asks you to learn more, that brings you to stillness, that holds you up in hard times? It is relationship, the beating heart of our faith. It begins when we share this hour, our truths, this air, our hearts. Come, let us worship together. I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in singing together our opening song, number 298. The words are on the screen as well.
There's a thread you follow. It goes among things that change, but it doesn't change. People wonder about what you are pursuing, and you have to explain about the thread. But it is hard for others to see. While you hold it, you can't get lost. Tragedies happen, people get hurt or die, and you suffer or get old. Nothing you can do stops time's unfolding. You don't ever let go of the thread. This morning, we light the chalice for that thread that connects us.
Let the center hold. This is my prayer. Please let the center hold. The center is what holds our faith together. The strength of the center is what allows us to stretch farther into the future, to the unknown, the untried, the uncertain, the unnerving, the places where growth happens. Let the center be strong, and let the center of this living tradition move with the times. Let the center of our living tradition lead the times. May the strength of the center strengthen us as we seek, as we embody compassion, work for equity, demand justice for all. Let our center hold, strong as an old oak tree, flexible as a willow tree, life-giving as an orange tree, and evergreen as the pine tree, and as beautiful as the almond tree in blossom. Amen, and blessed be.
A letter from Unitarian Universalism to my dearest UUs. I am writing to you today full of emotions, both worry and hope. So many things in the world have changed over the past few years, and so have I. We look at the weary world and wonder, what good can we still do? We see the pain and systemic hate perpetuated on our planet, sometimes against our planet, and feel disheartened. What can we do? But I am Unitarian Universalism, and I say to you that we have done good, that we can do good, and in some cases, we may be the only people who can. But in order for you to use my larger light, the light of Unitarian Universalism, we must gather our individual lights together and let go of hiding them under our own personal bushel. I know I am changing, and that is scary. I know I may be using different words and sentences to say who I am, and that is scary. But we are the people of change, of looking to the future of our world and what new work we must do. We were at the forefront of civil rights, of women's rights, of environmental rights. I know it is hard to see some of those things being tamped down after all the work we did before. But just like everything else in the world, we must change with the changing times. Certainly, the world was a different place in 1961 when we became Unitarian Universalism. We had different words to describe our purpose and identity then. And over time, we have shifted and changed, reviewed, and revised. Please, my dear UUs, love me not only for who I have been, but also for who I am today. If you do, you are not turning your back on our past. We have made great strides together, and with your commitment and support, I, Unitarian Universalism, have learned and grown. Won't you continue to learn and grow with me? I am a living tradition, one that continues to grow, build, change, and rebuild. It's one of the key things that UUism offers that other faith traditions may not. We are not stuck in the words of yesteryear. We are not held accountable for long-lost prophets, tied down by a creed or bound to one ancient text. We are accountable for our actions, set free with our beliefs, and bound by humanity and love. The great James Luther Adams, sometimes called the father of liberal religion, said this: "Religious liberalism depends on the principle that revelation is continuous." Our religious tradition is a living tradition because we are always learning new truths. So I ask you again, dear UUs, will you love me not only for who I have been, but also for who I am today? And truly not just who I am today, but who I may become? I will keep on changing, hopefully becoming more and more true to myself and the principles and values I espouse. But I cannot do it alone, and I cannot do it if you will not join me. Fear of change and a holding to the past is difficult to overcome, but I know we can. We must, for this world needs us. And we can't have a future if we don't accept that we keep on moving forward. I hope you will join me. I hope you can see me. I hope my light is guiding your way. And I ask once more, can you love me not only for who I have been, but for who I am today? Let's let go. Let's go on. Let's grow on. Together, we can do it. Sincerely, Unitarian Universalism in 2024.
Y'all, it is rare these days for me to be nervous. when I step into the pulpit. But I will tell you that this sermon required some wrestling. I rewrote it a lot of times. I deleted and saved probably 4 sermons worth of content, and I hope that we can have conversations about some of those things, continue to have conversations about some of those things. But what I realized as I was writing and rewriting, and as I was standing there singing that meditation, that is a great way to start a sermon, by the way. Good to be grounded. That the most important thing to me about everything that we have been discussing about Article II, have you heard Article II of our bylaws is being revised? I know that for those of you who are new among us, this may not be something that you know, but I hope that you will learn something about who we are and where we are in this time and place. But Article II of the UUA bylaws bylaws seem kind of pedestrian, governance, whatever, those are not the things that make conflict. And yet here we are. But I realize that my nervousness this morning comes from the thing that is most true for me, which is that I love Unitarian Universalism deeply. I love all of you deeply. I love the possibilities that exist in this community and in our larger faith deeply. And I don't want that to get lost in the parts of this conversation that are hard. At the most basic level, this revision to our bylaws is happening because elsewhere in the same bylaws it is required that Article II be periodically reviewed. For those of you who are visiting us for the first time, Article II is where the 7 principles and our statements of purpose and our sources, the sources of our faith exist. In 2020, a commission was established by the UUA board to lead this periodic review, which we all will admit was delayed by a couple of decades. They have followed a transparent process over the past 3.5 years, soliciting feedback and information from UUs across the country, presenting a draft, accepting amendments, reworking the draft, etc. That process will culminate in a final vote to accept the proposed language with any new amendments or not at the 2024 General Assembly in June. Since October of 2022, when that first draft of proposed revisions came out, the conversation has been active in UU congregations across the country, including this one. It's been complicated. People have strong feelings about it, both for and against the changes. I expect that. We Unitarian Universalists are not known for keeping our opinions to ourselves. There have been questions about process, disagreements about content, intent, word choice, and more. That's all to be expected. But I've been surprised at how quickly this conversation turned into what feels like intractable conflict. Part of my surprise, if I'm honest, has to do with my own connections to the larger UU movement and the fact that it is my job, my full-time job, and has been for over 15 years to be knowledgeable about Unitarian Universalist polity, theology, and history, and to keep up with UU current events. Because of this, when I hear the 7 values that are in the proposed language, justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, inclusion, generosity, and love, and the priorities that are expressed in the rest of the proposed language, when I hear those words, they feel like the logical outcome of a series of shifts and changes in the way that we articulate and live out who we are as UUs, rather than the sudden change that it feels like to many of you and many UUs across the country. I can see the roots of these changes in how we express who we are, in the progression of our history, the Black empowerment controversy in 1969, the 1984 rewrite of Article II that gave us the principles, and so much more. So it doesn't feel sudden or out of nowhere to me. But it feels complicated and hard and jarring if you haven't been paying attention at the level that a professional religious leader has to pay attention. As we heard in Paula's letter from Unitarian Universalism, change is not easy, and there are big changes happening in the world around us, in the denomination, in this community, in Charlotte, everywhere. But instead of being honest about how it feels to be part of such big change, instead of stopping and saying, it feels like I'm getting erased. It feels like I don't understand what's happening. It feels like I don't know who I am or we are anymore. We're arguing about process and spending time on wordsmithing. What if instead we could shift our focus and sit with those feelings? If I'm honest, I wasn't thrilled when I saw the first draft of the changes. I was upset that the 7 principles had been removed. I became a UU in 1987. The principles as we know them today were adopted in 1985, so they have been a part of my entire UU life. And they were only 2 years old when I became a Unitarian Universalist. I thought that they were like the Bible. Since my first reading of the proposed revisions, I also wasn't so thrilled about how they had left direct experience of transcendent mystery and wonder, and some of the stuff about science and reason wasn't in that first draft. Those are important to me. I was a little salty about that first draft. But since that first reading, I have moved past my initial emotional reaction, not because I don't care about the principles, but because the first sermon I ever preached outside of a preaching class was called Our Living Tradition. The words living tradition refer to one of the most fundamental theological concepts at the heart of Unitarian Universalism. The idea that we heard from James Luther Adams that revelation is not sealed. It actually originates with noted Unitarian John Haynes Holmes, who said, and just full disclosure, the language is of the time, in a couple of different ways. John Haynes Holmes said, "The heretic, acquainted with loneliness, has nothing to offer but himself. He is convinced he has no claim to the present but that of his own soul and its right to recognition. He is convinced that not through churches or books, but men does God speak his word and reveal his will. He does not deny that revelation has come to other men in earlier times and that what they saw has become the precious tradition of a church or the holy testimony of a Bible, but he insists that He insists that revelation is not sealed. Answering unto man's endeavor, truth and right are still revealed. In 1976, James Luther Adams referred to his Holmes quote in his 5 Smooth Stones of Religious Liberalism, which Paula quoted. Revelation is continuous. Meaning has not been finally captured. In 2024 terms, this idea means that we are always learning, growing, and changing. You could say we are always engaging in personal, societal, and environmental transformation. We know that things we learned in the past may no longer be accurate or might have changed, and therefore need to be approached with some new nuance, context, or lens. In researching this sermon, I discovered this quote from Louis Fisher, a Universalist theologian writing in 1922. He says, "Universalists are often asked to tell where they stand. The only true answer to give to this question is that we do not stand at all. We move. We do not stand still, nor do we defend any immovable positions. We grow, as all living things forever must do." He continues, "The main questions with Universalists are not where we stand, but which way we are moving. Our main interest is to perceive what is true progress and to keep our movements in line with that, and not to allow ourselves to move round and round in circles simply like a squirrel in its cage. Old worn phrases are always losing their old meanings and must forever be finding new meanings in the light of new experiences." This is what I have come to see in the proposed revisions. The articulation of the 7 values and the rewording of the main concepts from the 7 principles, most of which I find incorporated into the new language. The process of revising Article II has left us with a new articulation of core values. Most importantly to me, the new language incorporates a deeper understanding of who we are and how we will work together to accomplish things. I have heard from you and some of you and others across the country concerns about the word accountability and what it means. I hear fears about tribunals and top-down decisions and whether there is some larger top-down movement to force Unitarian Universalist congregations to do something that they are not already doing. It may be that some congregations are not doing the things that we see in the new Article II proposed language. But that doesn't mean that it's a top-down decision. Have you ever found a group of Unitarian Universalists that were forced to do something that they didn't want to do? Our polity, our congregational polity means that the work ahead of us now is to decide who we are, who you are as a congregation, and how you will pick up the work that you have begun. There is no top-down accountability in congregational polity. The 7 principles are the words of the current covenant between our congregations, the promises we make to each other about who and how we will be. And our covenants must change with the times. As a people of covenant rather than creed, we prioritize our relationships. And as a result, when we learn that something has caused harm to someone else, we are obligated to listen and learn and work toward repair, if possible. The same is true when we are ourselves harmed. When we know better, we do better. It's also true that when we learn new things about the world around us, we grow and change as individuals and as a community. course, I chose the title of this sermon to be provocative, to push the envelope a little bit and hopefully intrigue you enough to show up this morning for the conversation. But it also recalls a moment I had a few months ago. In the midst of one or another insider conversation about Article II, I don't even remember if it was something happening here at UUCC or in the larger UU world, but I found myself engaged in yet another altercation on the topic in which nobody was listening to each other because everyone was focused on throwing their main talking points back and forth. In the same time frame, I was also reading or hearing about the latest war, the latest racist killing, the latest anti-queer legislation, the latest ongoing impact of climate change. And in my frustration, I exclaimed, "Who cares about Article II? We have work to do." That's not to say that how we articulate who we are as a faith tradition isn't important. It is. Mission and vision and covenant are essential, central tools that keep us organizationally focused. But if we allow the internal conversation to take up all the space and drown out all the work we are here to do, then we're missing the point, my friends. If the internal conversation isn't a conversation but an intractable conflict, then we, my friends, are missing the point. We have allowed Article II to become an us versus them issue. And that absolutely breaks my heart. When I talk to couples who are getting married, I always remind them that part of their covenant, the covenant that they are making that day in their wedding, is that they are on the same team. Somehow, Unitarian Universalists have decided that we are not all on the same team. One of the primary criticisms I have heard about the proposed language is that it makes the UUA, the Unitarian Universalist Association, into a social justice organization, not a religious one. But since the First Great Awakening in the 1730s and 40s, when folks like Jonathan Edwards and George Whitefield championed ideas that are credited with feeding the movement toward American independence, since the Second Great Awakening between 1800 and 1830, which called for the abolition of slavery, since the turn of the 20th century into the 1930s, the progressive era, the social gospel movement, and the Black church's leadership of the civil rights movement, religious people have influenced social and political change. It is our religious beliefs that call us into the public square, our principles, our values, our personal spiritual transformations that inspire us to act. In order for us to use the larger light of Unitarian Universalism, we must, and I quote, gather our individual lights together and let go of hiding them under our personal bushels. The Great Awakenings all began with a rise in spirituality, an upswelling of religious faith that led people into a push towards social reform. The same is true for the past decade or more. We have seen the rise of progressive religious people articulating their position on issues whose proponents and detractors have traditionally been divided between the religious right and the secular liberals. Somehow we have reached a critical mass of progressive religious people who are unwilling to let the religious right have a monopoly on social policy and articulating what it means to be a person of faith. James Luther Adams wrote, A church that does not concern itself with the struggle in history for human decency and justice. A church that does not show concern for the shape of things to come. A church that does not attempt to interpret the signs of the times is not a prophetic church. The prophetic liberal church is the church in which persons think and work together to interpret the signs of the time in the light of their faith, their principles and values. The prophetic liberal church is the church in which all members share the common responsibility to attempt to foresee the consequences of human behavior, both individual and institutional, with the intention of making history in place of merely being pushed around by it. That's the end of the quote. Guess what, y'all? Unitarian Universalism is a social justice organization, and it is a religious one. And it has to be both. That's always what we've been. At our best, we are spiritually grounded people whose religious values call us to seek deeper justice and courageous compassion. I know you have more questions about the nuances of Article II, about how it will be a thing if it gets voted in, how it will be, how we will interact with it here at the UUCC. We've got more conversation sessions coming up. Let's talk about what accountability means in the context of our covenant. You all have a covenant. Let's talk about what accountability means in the context of that covenant. Let's talk about what it means to welcome all people who share our values. Let's talk about how the Unitarian Universalist community of Charlotte is going to express who you are and how you relate to Unitarian Universalism in the years to come. Because, my friends, there is an us and a them. But the us and the them doesn't have to split Unitarian Universalism or the UUCC. It doesn't have to split us apart. In the context of this community, we believe that it is our work to create just and equitable systems to work for freedom and agency for all people, personal, societal, and environmental transformation. Those are your words. We don't always succeed. We can be petty and self-centered and myopic like anybody else. We live in an endlessly complex world. It's rarely possible to make a decision that is entirely ethically pure, but it matters that we try. It matters that we seek solutions that create peace, equity, and justice. And peace isn't the idyllic picture of a snuggly lion and lamb in the foreground, surrounded by lush greenery and all the animals you could imagine, even if they don't actually live in the same habitat in real life. Peace, I mean, when have you seen a giraffe and a parrot hanging out? Peace is the absence of injustice, not the absence of tension. So if you want to be part of the us instead of the them, all you have to do is be committed to creating a world in which more people have more access, more safety, more justice, and more love. You too can commit to creating a world in which justice is our highest value and compassion is the foundation of everything we do. Creating a world, creating a community in this place where we work together to draw the circle ever wider, to include anyone who is willing to struggle and ask questions and stay in relationship and be vulnerable and go deeper and sit with our feelings and create authentic, beloved community. Anyone. It is never too late, my friends, to choose love. And if we are going to choose love, then we also need to say no to white supremacy, to racism, to misogyny, to misandry, to homophobia, to transphobia, to ableism, to all of those things that try to break us apart. Let's not break ourselves apart before they have a chance to do it for us. If I'm honest, I'm excited about where the new Article II language, that proposed language, can take us. I look forward to continuing to live into the work we've been doing, to stop book banning, to make healthcare available to people who need it, and to make it a decision between the person and their doctor, not the person in some church or politician. To try to find a way to turn back climate change. I look forward to continuing to live into the work we've been doing, sometimes well and sometimes not, for centuries. And if there are things in there that really don't work, well, that brings me back to congregational polity. We have the power to propose changes to the General Assembly. In 15 years or so, there will be another review and potential revision of Article II. We share a living tradition. My greatest hope for Unitarian Universalism and for the UU community of Charlotte is that you will refuse to let the Article II conversation and the internal conversation about your congregational commitment to engaging in the work of dismantling systems of oppression divide you. Refuse to allow yourselves to become an us and a them. Friends, we are challenged every day to continue to draw the circle wide and wider still, to affirm that there is always room for a change of heart, always room for them to become us, when us is committed to compassion and justice and setting one another free from tyranny. Draw the circle wider so that each day we mean one more. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be. Thank you, Scott and John and the choir. Now is the time in our service where we will collect the offering. During the offering music, you can come forward and light a candle at the center of this community of memory and hope. We are grateful to our members who pledge their generous financial support and make regular contributions to sustain the work of this community. And when you light your candles, we recommend putting an unlit candle into the flame of the lit candle for safety. The offering will now be received. Please join me in a time of contemplation or prayer. I invite you to breathe deeply, to be present to the spirit of life which is in us and through us and around us, to those human connections that give us strength when we struggle and celebrate with us when we are joyful. The gathered community hears and holds both difficulty and ease as we honor the experiences that make each of us who we are. Today, we send our love, thoughts, prayers, healing to Brendan Klitsch, husband of Stephanie Klitsch, who had emergency spinal surgery on Friday evening. He's being discharged from the hospital today, but has a long road of recovery ahead of him. They would appreciate the love and thoughts and prayers of this community. Let us honor all concerns and celebrations and milestones, the light going for, reaching up, the flames reaching up, those things that you brought into the center of this community, honoring all that has been shared today and those that are held close to our hearts. Quaker writer Parker Palmer says, "Your life never was the solo turn it seemed to be. It was always part of the great weave of nature and humanity and immensity we come to know only as we follow our own small threads to the place where they merge with the boundless whole. Each of our threads runs its course, then joins in life together. This magnificent tapestry, this masterpiece in which we live forever." May it be so, friends. Amen, and blessed be. I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in singing our closing song, number 1028, "The Fire of Commitment." It's in the teal hymnal, or the words are on your screen. Let the center hold. My friends, let the center of who you are hold. And may we each find the threads that connect us and the places where they intertwine. I invite you to say with me the words for extinguishing the chalice that are on the screen. Extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth.